Hello everyone, this is Johnny and welcome back. So beside me here, I have an Acer palmatum Katsura Japanese maple tree. And this tree is known for its beautiful spring color especially. So right now it still has quite a bit of yellow, yellowy moving to green inside the tree, kind of the interior parts of the tree. And in the spring, the early spring, this has an even more intense yellow color, but a lovely tree for its intense spring color. With that being said though, I need to trim this and prune this Japanese maple tree just a little bit. So I want to take you along that process and give you some tips for how to prune properly Japanese maple trees. So stick around. Okay, before we move into actually pruning this tree, I want to talk about two quick things that are important. First of all, you want to make sure that you have some good, sharp pruning shears, the pass-through kind like I have here. You don't want to have the anvil style. That's not going to be good for Japanese maple trees. And I really love this particular pair here. It's made in Japan. I got it on Amazon, and I will put a link down below with an Amazon affiliate link if you'd like to purchase these exact pruners. I can definitely recommend them to you. I love them. But if you purchase these pruners using that link, that does help support this channel because Amazon does give me a commission at no extra cost to you. But nonetheless, these are available on Amazon. They're great, sharp, high quality pruners made in Japan, and I definitely recommend these to you. It's also really important that you sanitize your pruners before you do any kind of trimming, any kind of pruning. So I like to use rubbing alcohol, and you could just use a bottle of rubbing alcohol and like a rag or something like that. But what I like to do is get these alcohol prep pads. So these are pads that already have alcohol on them, and then you can just wipe the blades themselves. You want to make sure that you protect your fingers because the blades are sharp, so make sure you don't cut yourself if you do it that way. But that's how I like to do it. So always sanitize your pruners when you move from one tree to another or before you start pruning any tree, because you are doing, in a sense, surgery on the tree, and you don't want to introduce any viruses and things like that from one tree and bring those to the other tree. So sanitize your pruners before you actually start pruning. Okay, so my shears are all sanitized. Now I want to talk about the proper timing for pruning your Japanese maple tree. So there are several different opinions on the proper time to prune Japanese maple trees. But based on my research, I think, and this is based on advice from Mr. Maple, the guys over at Mr. Maple, they recommend that you prune your Japanese maple tree kind of in the late winter, right as you're moving into spring, when the Japanese maple tree has its buds that are starting to break just a little bit. They recommend to go ahead and prune at that period of time. And the reasoning behind that is because A, it encourages good new growth, but B, the tree is going to heal up the quickest during that time of year. So I like that advice from the folks at Mr. Maple, the guys over at Mr. Maple. That's great advice. Some people will say to go ahead and prune this, you know, when the leaves fall in the late fall season. And while you could do that, the tree, based on what the guys over at Mr. Maple have said, the tree is going to actually heal slower during that time. And so you're going to introduce more opportunities for pest and disease with a slower healing period of time. Now, we are here at the end of April, and so we're kind of coming on the period of time when it's still okay to prune your tree here in April, but we're starting moving into a time when I wouldn't want to do too much crazy pruning, but I'm not going to be doing extremely heavy pruning on this. I'm just going to do a good basic shaping. So with that being said, let's move into some basic tips for pruning a Japanese maple tree. Okay, first of all, I want to cover a really important tip here, and this is really key. Don't miss this. So if I wanted to prune this branch right here, I would not want to go ahead and get as close as I could to that and cut it right there. You actually want to leave just a little bit of space there, because when you prune a branch like this collar here is able to protect the tree from bacteria, viruses, pests from getting in there. But if I go ahead and cut right up to that collar, I risk potentially not allowing the tree to heal up properly. So I probably am not going to cut this branch off, but if I were, I would go ahead and cut it about right there, just leaving just a little bit of space in between where I cut it and the collar of the tree. That's a really key, important tip there. When it comes to pruning the Japanese maple and shaping it, you do want to keep in mind what kind of general shape this particular cultivar has. You don't want to try to force a tree to be something that it's not. That's not going to be successful. But you can see the basic shape here. This is a pretty basically shaped tree, and I have a nice kind of V shape here. but you want to not try to force this tree to be something that it's not. Now, the first step, I want to go in and I want to cut off any of the dead growth that's underneath, and there's not a lot of it in this. I really see very, very little, which is a good sign, but usually you'll have a little bit of dead growth in the tree, and that's the first thing you want to do. So I'm just going to go through really quickly and see if there's any dead growth that I want to cut off. That's going to be my very first step. That's the easy ones to cut off. Next, what I want to do is I want to go ahead and open up the interior of the tree a little bit. So there are a lot of leaves in here that are growing in towards the tree, so I don't want that. And I want the leaves to be pointing out. So I'm going to trim any of these branches inside of here that are pointed into the interior of the tree. And I'm going to just open this up because this tree does have great structure. We have a main leader right there, and then we have it V'ing off here with these two branches. And I want to open this up so that we get good structure. Now, I do, in this particular case, not want this branch down below here. So I'm going to go ahead and prune that off down here, and this branch as well. But once again, when it comes to pruning this, I'm going to cut it right here. And you can see that I left just a little bit of space there between where I cut it and the collar, and I'll go ahead and pull off that little piece there. And the same thing here, I'm going to prune that right there, and I left just a little bit of space for it to die back. Little things like that I can just pull off. Okay, in addition to the branches that are kind of growing into the interior of the tree, I'm also going to be trimming off branches like, for example, this one that's just growing straight down and crisscrossing other branches. So I'm going to cut the branches that are growing down directly like that in places that I don't want them, and the branches that are growing into the interior of the tree that aren't really going to get a lot of light. Okay, so you can see how much I've taken off right there. And I've just done a light amount so far, but it's already a lot more open in here and looking better. The next thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and look at competing branches. So if I have two branches that are kind of occupying a similar space, like this is a good example right here. So I have a lot of branches here that are kind of crossing. And I want to go ahead and choose the favorite branches here and grow those out and not have ones that are growing into each other. And when it comes to competing branches, a lot of times I'll pick the one that's growing down and leave the one that's growing up. Like here are some competing branches. That one's going down and that one's growing down. So I'll cut those off. So you can see just how much better this is looking already. Now what I want to do is I just want to go ahead and look at it for basic shape. So it's good to step back right now, take a look at the shape that we're achieving, and just do some basic shaping. I'm happy with The structure, I can see a lot more of the structure of the tree now. I'm decently happy with the branches that are there, but I might come and trim some of these longer ones back just a little bit, back just in front of one of the leaf nodes there, and do some of that to just shape it a little bit. But as you can see, this is looking much, much better. Okay, so I did a little bit more fine tuning and I just absolutely love the shape of this tree now. It's much more open and airy looking. You can see the trunk structure here where it has the 3 branches that come off that main leader and then the 2 other branches that come off. I believe that has amazing shape. And with time, I'm going to prune this such that I allow this particular branch to just slightly catch up with this one so that the shape will be a little bit more even. But overall, I think the kind of that uneven shape still does look pretty good. But I hope this video was helpful to you. I'm just kind of showing that basic process of pruning a Japanese maple tree. I definitely don't want you to be afraid to prune your Japanese maple tree. It is a part of long-term success of having a Japanese maple tree that stays healthy. And it's not something that you need to be afraid of. You just need to get in and do it. And if you follow the basic steps that I mentioned, I believe you'll have good success. Well, thank you so much for watching. Until next time.